January 1st, a day that would change a family forever. Inside a quiet home, the night began like any other, but in an instant, everything shattered. Seated at the kitchen table, he never imagined that the life of his family and his own life was about to hang by a thread. The first shot hit his chest, breaking ribs, damaging his spleen. Yet, even in agony, he tried to stay calm, to protect the children, to protect the dog.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Thank you. I am showing you two pictures. They are marked as people's proposed exhibits 3 and 4. Are they pictures of things that you recognize?
Yes,
What are they pictures of?
they are pictures of credit cards that belong to the community.
Are those the credit cards that you just referenced that were taken by the defendant from your wallet that day?
Yes.
Okay. And those are fair and accurate representations of what those cards look like?
Yes.
Thank you. May I approach again, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. Mr. Bernhardt, I'm now showing you what's been marked as people's proposed exhibit 5. That's also a picture, correct?
Correct.
What is that a picture of?
Picture of some jewelry and a watch.
Do you recognize that jewelry and watch?
Yes, the jewelry, the earrings are pictures of earrings that my wife had and wore. The watch is the watch that was mine, that was upstairs in our bedroom.
Were you aware of those? Start that. Is that picture a fair and accurate representation of those items that you just described to us?
Yes.
Okay. Were you aware of any items being taken from the upstairs of your home that day, that night?
At that point, I was not aware.
Okay. Did you give permission for anybody to take any of those things?
No.
Did anybody else in your presence give permission for those items to be taken?
True, his child, and Mr. Bernhardt, the family dog, were whisked away by strangers, leaving him alone in a nightmare. Then the unthinkable, the second shot, to his forehead, through his eye, leaving fragments of metal in his mouth that would torment him for months. Amid the chaos, he glimpsed his wife, already gone. And still, despite the pain, he found the strength to escape, to seek help, to survive.
What happens after the defendant has taken your credit cards, has your phone, and makes $6,000 worth of a financial transfer?
So there was a couple of things that happened during that. One of which, going back to the response that I made as far as how we responded during that time, there was something that I said trying to answer a question or trying to de-escalate, where I must have said something that was wrong or that made someone upset, but the first violent act was I was hit the forehead right on my eyebrow with what I believe was the butt of a weapon.
Who did that to you?
I believe it was Ms. Benson.
And I'm sorry, when in that process did that take place? At some point when you were sort of...
That was kind of early on. The one thing about this whole night is I kept thinking to myself, why are they still here? The amount of time that they spent in our home seemed like a very long time for somebody just coming in, to take their daughter. And I kept thinking, why are they here? So this just felt like a very long time. But that first initial act of violence was the first thing that happened. So that was probably during the time when she was making the accusations, and I was trying to answer and explain why she may have felt or thought that we were keeping her daughter from believing in God, which was completely not true. And I was trying to explain that, and at that point, I was struck in the face. It broke my glasses, and it hurt really bad. Then some time passed, and it was after, I believe it was after the conversation about the money. Again, I must have said something that was a trigger or made her upset. But I was shot in the chest, and on the left side of the chest. And because I was seated, I think, and I'm not a forensics expert or anything, but I think because of the angle where I was seated, probably helped save my life. And so I was shot. The angle kind of went in my chest and bounced off a few ribs. 3 ribs were broken. My spleen was damaged. And I remember feeling, it actually, I remember feeling the bullet inside. I don't know anything about bullets, but I know bullets, when they hit, they're made to kind of fracture and kind of do more damage. And I could feel that literally, where it felt like fireworks were going off on the inside of me. And I still have bullet fragments in my back that I could feel. So that was the first shot. And amazingly enough, I didn't, I was still able to sit there. It hurt, like you would not imagine, but I still sat there and I still tried to calm things down and be engaged at that point. And then it was, I think they had already taken True outside, and the dog. And so True had to get her and came out, walked across us. She actually wanted to give us, my wife and I, a hug.
Did she get to do that?
No. And the other thing that made Miss Vincent very upset was True referred to us as mommy and daddy. And so that made her more upset when she said that, and she wanted to give us a hug. But they quickly, she ordered one of the men to basically take her and get her outside. And that's what they did, got her coat and brought her outside.
Was that before or after you were shot?
That was before.
One of those men was ordered by the defendant to take True and the dog outside?
Yeah, at 2 different times. I mean, the dog was the first thing, because like I mentioned earlier, the dog was scared. He was a puppy. He was only a few months old. So he was literally next to my right leg as I was sitting there. And I was trying to console the dog, because I was thinking if the dog made any noise or growled or seemed vicious at all or barked, that they would just shoot the dog in front of the girls. And those girls, they love the dog. So I was trying to keep that from happening. So I had my right hand on the dog, trying to console the dog and pet him. And quickly she got nervous about that, the fact, if I would possibly do something with the dog. So, she said, "What are you doing with the dog?" And I tried to explain. And then she said she didn't like that. So then she ordered one of the men to come and get the dog. And I asked, I said, "Can I have the dog?" And there was our laundry room was right next to where I was sitting. So I was like, "Can I just put the dog in the laundry room and close the door?" And she said, "No." So they took the dog and brought the dog outside.
Who shot me?
Who shot him?
Who shot you?
Oh, who shot me? Miss Simpson.
You've told us that True was taken outside before that, and the dog. What about Livy?
So Livy, my daughter, was initially in the living room, and Miss Benson ordered her short, the time frame. Not sure exactly how long, but it was not too long after we were sitting down. So I think from what Libby told me initially, she was kind of hiding, or she was crouched down by the end of the couch. So Miss Vincent ordered her into the kitchen and told her to stand on the other side of her. And so at that point, when she came, she had clear view, probably standing about 7 feet from us, my wife and I, just on the other side of Miss Vincent, and told Libby to stand there and not to move. And she stayed there the rest of the night.
So Libby was standing there when you got hit in the head with the butt of a gun?
Yes.
Libby was standing there when you got shot the first time?
Yes.
How close was the defendant to you when she shot you the first time?
So she was probably about. So I was sitting next. I was sitting. My wife was sitting just to my left, about a foot from me, and then Miss Vincent was probably a foot or two from her. So I mean, I'd say 3 to 4 feet from me.
Did she say anything to you before or when she was shooting?
No, the only thing I remember about being shot in the head was she didn't say anything to me, but the last thing I remember right before that happened was my wife in a calm, but you could tell that there was fear in her voice. She said, "Please, Siobhan, don't do anything you regret." And that just triggered Siobhan. And she got very angry. She said something along the lines, "I'll show you what I'll regret." And then from what I remember, right after that is when I was shot in the head.
Is that the last thing you heard your wife say?
Yes.
What happened after you got shot in the head?
So I was shot in the right side of my head, right in the forehead. There's a plate right in my forehead. And as I said, probably the angle, I believe that, I've said this publicly, I believe that God was with me that day. But the angle, it went through my forehead, through my right eye, down to the top of the inside of my mouth. And I just recently, actually, about a month and a half ago, had 2 surgeries to remove bullet fragments from under my tongue because they were causing so much pain and I couldn't barely eat. So the angle of the gun or the bullet, I think that was part of the reason my life was spared. I remember being aware of the fact that I was shot in the head. I remember the sensation of blood, and I describe it like a river of hot, like fluid flowing from my head. And I fell forward, and I remember the last thing, I was aware of being shot in the head, and the first thing I thought was, when you're shot in the head, you die. So I was in my mind thinking that I'm about to die. And I laid down, and the thing I said, God, help me. And what I was asking for was, God, help me go through whatever transition, death, whatever that looks like. I wasn't afraid of dying because I believe in God and that I can go to be with Him, but I didn't know what that transition was like. So I prayed that prayer, and then I passed out. And then at some point, I believe it, somewhere around 15 minutes, somehow I gained consciousness again. And I remember the first thing that I thought was, I didn't have that sensation of that blood flowing from my head. So I thought, maybe I'm not going to die. And so I sat up and I found some strength we have a bench right where the shoes are. And so I found some strength to sit up on the bench. And I knew that they had taken our phones. I didn't know if they were still in the house or not. But the first thing I thought was, I have to get to the neighbor's house and get help. So I sat there and I was putting my shoes on, and the thing, probably one of the hardest things is, as I sat there and I was putting my shoes on, I looked over and saw my wife. And I knew the moment I saw her, she was dead. She was sitting there. She wasn't even laying down. She was sitting there, and her head was hanging down, and I just literally saw blood flowing from her chin. That's an image that will stay with me the rest of my life. But I put my shoes on and I opened the garage door, and I hesitated and I said, Lord, please don't let them be in the driveway. And I hit the button to open the garage door and walked out the garage. They were already gone. And I walked over to my neighbor's house, and my first neighbor wasn't home. And so I ended up having to walk down the street to our other neighbor's house. And fortunately, they were home, and they were amazing. They brought me in, sat me down, and called 911. And an officer from Northfield Township Police Department was the first one to show up. And he was amazing. All of the officers of both Northfield and the county sheriff's office have been amazing through this. But he took some information about. He was asking my neighbor some questions as well. Obviously, I was sitting there bleeding, and hurt, but I was still conscious. I was still able to answer questions. And I remember after him asking my name, like who was in the house and things like that. I remember him saying, he said, okay, and he put his arm on my shoulder to kind of comfort me, and he said, okay, I'm not going to ask you any more questions. And we were still waiting for the ambulance to show up, and I remember saying, that's okay, if there's anything you need, I remember what happened. And he said, do you remember who did this to you? And I said, yes. And I gave him Miss Vincent's name and even spelled it for him. And then the ambulance came and took me to the hospital.
Did you see anyone else in the house before you left? No, just your wife as you described.
Yeah.
Okay. So Libby was not there anymore as far as you could see.
No.
Did the defendant have permission to be in your home that night?
No.
Did the defendant have permission and authority to take True from your home?
No.
Did the defendant have permission and authority to take your daughter, Olivia, from your home?
No.
And for clarification, the dog was not there either.
No.
Dog's name?
Steppers.
Mr. Bernhardt, thank you very much. I don't have any further questions. Obviously, Ms. Vincent's attorney has the right to ask questions as well. Your Honor, nothing further at this time. However, I do move to admit people's proposed 3, 4, and 5.
Any objection of what?
No, Your Honor.
All right, exhibits 3, 4, and 5 are admitted.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sir, did you need a break for a moment, or are you?
No, I'm okay.
You're okay? Okay, if you need a break, that's not a problem. You're good to go? Okay.
I have cans of sparkling water. Could I offer that?
That sounds kind of fancy.
It's a little fancy.
We just drink water around
All
here.
I have.
We're kind of the out county. We don't have sparkling stuff. They do that on the other side of 23.
That helps.
That's just my thought. But yes, if he wanted some, that's fine.
Wonderful.
Cross-examination.
Mr. Bernhardt, the neighbor's house that you went to, that was Mr. Ali Wright.
Right.
When you got there, Mr. Ali Wright asked who shot you, correct?
He asked me.
Yep.
I do not recall that.
Okay. You don't recall him asking. So do you recall not being able to identify to Mr. Wright who shot you when he asked?
I do not remember that conversation. No.
This is Mr. Ali Wright that I believe works, has a security company, correct?
No. Ellie Wright is actually works for the public defender's office.
Okay.
He's a public defender.
I believe he works at the public defender's office. Secondly, you weren't at the front door when these individuals came in, correct? So you don't know who opened the door, correct? And you don't know if these individuals forced their way in the home or not, correct?
From the sound that I heard, even before the screams, it was very clear to me that somebody was entering forcefully into the home.
From the sound that you heard, it was very clear to you that somebody was entering the home forcefully. You remember being interviewed by the police and telling the police that you were unsure if they forced entry to the home or if the door was left open?
Well,
So that's not my question. My question to you is, do you remember telling the police that or not?
I didn't.
Okay, so you don't remember if Mr. Ali Wright asked you who shot you in the house. And you don't remember telling the police you're unsure if the individuals forced their way into the home or not. Is that correct? Saw some photographs of some jewelry that was, I presume, to be upstairs in a bedroom. Ms. Vincent never went upstairs, correct?
Correct. That I'll say this. I did not see her go upstairs. However, I was unconscious, so I don't know where she went, where she didn't go in the house after that.
Okay, that's fair. Now, you were made aware of some complaints that Ms. Vincent had regarding her daughter, correct?
Correct.
You testified that one of the complaints was her daughter not being allowed to believe in God. Where you also told Ms. Vincent was making complaints about her daughter being physically and sexually abused at your house.
I did not become aware of the details of those complaints until after this event.
Okay, but you were aware of those complaints when the prosecutor asked you about the threats that were made and what you were told from the family court, correct?
You repeat that?
When the prosecutor asked you about the complaints and threats that were made in family court, and you told her about Ms. Vincent's complaint about True not being allowed to believe in God, you remember that? You were aware of the accusation of physical and sexual abuse then, right? When you just testified here for the government.
So I was not aware of any details of any sort of accusations of abuse that we were towards us, towards her daughter. If my testimony is this.
Well, sir, we'll figure out what your testimony is. My question to you is, just less than an hour ago, when you were asked about the complaints made regarding the care of True Vincent, did you or did you not know that Siobhan had made complaints about physical or sexual abuse?
I did not know. Not in depth, no. Sexual abuse, absolutely not. I didn't know that was a complaint.
Okay. You didn't know, or you didn't know in depth?
I did not, the sexual, I did not know at all until after all of this happened, when CPS did their investigation.
But you knew when you walked in here today to testify.
So we can be clear, the question was, how did he know it was Miss Vincent? Not what he knew. So I don't want to get that conflated. Because you're asking what, excuse me a second, sir. You're asking what he knew when he answered the question. The court's understanding of the question was not what he knew in its entirety, but what he knew that he could identify the person as being Miss Vincent. So go ahead, Cal.
Your testimony is on January 1st, you were aware that there was some complaints about True being allowed to believe in God or not?
The two main complaints that I was aware of, and the only two things that Miss Vincent discussed with us that night, was us being referred to as mommy and daddy. That was talked about in family court and addressed by Judge Miller. And more recently, which was her last visit, virtual visit with True, was when she misunderstood that and made a complaint about us not believing in God. Now, the night of the shooting, Miss Vincent never mentioned anything about sexual abuse or physical abuse.
No, stop. That's twice. I warned counsel. Counsel warned you. She can step off. You can take her. Because I'm not having it.
Judge, can we approach?
Yes, you may. Counsel approach.
I would agree.